Do you hate counter spells? Because some people look at this thing like it is the reincarnation of Satan. That is why today we are going to be looking at a tier list that is going to go over how uncounterable cards are, how easy it is for other counter spells to actually interact with them. We will rank them from too easy to Neo. Why Neo? Because Neo dodges everything. Neo can dodge bullets, including all the counter spells. All right, how are we going to start this thing off? Oh boy, with Counterflux. This is a isn't that a counterspell itself? Counterflux. It is a 2-mana instant. It can't be countered by spells or abilities. Counter target spell you don't control and overload for 4 mana. You can cast this spell for its overload cost. If you do, change its text by replacing all instances of target with each. Now, I'm going to be a little cheatsy here, and I'll tell you why. Because there are some cards that act like technically not a counter spell, but are effectively a counter spell. Cards like Reprieve. You are going to be judged on cards like Reprieve, Return Target. Why do we have an arena version of this? Let's just get the real one. Okay, it's a 2-mana instant. Return target spell to its owner's hand, draw a card. Now, not technically a counter spell, but very much in the counter spell world. We also have Venser, Shaper Savant. So you really have to be an incredibly... where's our Venser? Oh, did I meant... looked up Shaper Servant. 4-mana 2/2 flash creature. When enters the battlefield, return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand. And the list goes on, like Sink into Stupor and so on. Now, can this card get around? Sorry, can our Counterflux get around all that stuff? Not really. But it does say it can't be countered by spells or abilities. So it does get those two. So it is really actually hard to dodge this. The only thing that I think can hit this, I mean, also it can't get around misdirection. So we're gonna say it's pretty hard. We're gonna say it's hard. I mean, the card literally said uncounterable on it. Next up, we've got Supreme Verdict. I think this is going to be in the same, basically the same world as the similar world as Hard, except you can't use misdirection and misdirect effects on Supreme Verdict. A 4-mana sorcery, spell can't be countered, destroy all creatures. Actually, that's because of this point, we're actually going to move the what is it? The Counterflux? Yeah, it's called Counterflux. Because we can misdirect the Counterflux, I'm actually going to move it down to mid. So there's actually more interaction that can basically divert or counter the effect of this thing, because you can use a divert. Sorry, you can use a divert to actually let's get the Counterflux. You can use cards like Misdirection and Divert, which change the targets of targets, to counter the misdirection or the divert instead of the original spell that you actually played. So I'm actually going to move Counterflux to mid, but because you can't use those cards on Supreme Verdict because it doesn't target, Supreme Verdict is actually more powerful than Counterflux, and therefore Supreme Verdict goes into the hard mode. But it doesn't get around Venser, Reprieve, Sink into Stupor, and the rest of them. Next up, we got Bryce with the Allosaurus Shepherd. This is actually a fantastic card, because not only does it make your cards uncounterable, it also makes borderline all your green spells uncounterable, which is very disturbing. A 1-mana, 1/1 Elf Shaman. Spell can't be countered. Green spells you control can't be countered, and also has an activated ability for 6 mana. Until end of turn, each elf creature you control has base power and toughness 5/5 and becomes a dinosaur in addition to its other types, which can be countered, by the way. So the spells can't be countered, but the ability can. It can be hit with Stifle, Tishana's Tidebinder, which turns it off. So actually, Allosaurus Shepherd is a little bit easier to interact with than a lot of other cards, and it only hits green cards. So we're going to put this as mid to uncounterable, which is very funny. Imagine activating this ability, and then someone plays Tishana's Tidebinder, and then all future cards can't be countered from there on out. Okay, we have Elixir, our first super chat with Grape Shot. Making things a little bit harder. 2-mana sorcery. Grape Shot deals 1 damage to any target, and it has Storm. So when you cast this spell, copy it for each spell you cast before this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies. So technically not an uncounterable card, but is very difficult to counter all copies depending on how high your storm is. Like, it's not practical. If, like, let's say they storm for 30, it's not practical that you have 30 counter spells, but maybe somebody does. Maybe somebody, I mean, it can still get hit by Flusterstorm. It can be undone by, what was that life gain storm card? It was like gain 3 life for each storm card that was played this turn. The storm trigger itself can be countered with Stifle and Tishana's Tiebinder and Trick Bind and all that other crap. So it actually does get beat by a lot of cards. Also, what was it called? The Exile All Spells card. Was it Mind Break Trap? I hate all these are through the Omen Breach's default images. If an opponent casts 3 or more spells this turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay Mind Break Trap's mana cost. Exile any number of target spells. And by the way, all the targets will be on this deck. So actually, Grape Shot is not invincible at all. Not to mention that it is strictly counterable in the first place. So I would actually put this in the easy category. In fact, a lot of people play Mind Break Trap just to beat Storm in general, period. So I'm putting in the easy category. Next up, we got Cameron Cole with the Crozen Grip. Crozen Grip. All right, 3 mana instant. Split Second. It's going to be over before you even know it started. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. This is impenetrable. Not even Neo. There's no counter spell that is going to target this. There's nothing that gets around this. I think the only way that maybe you can interact with Crozen Grip, like the only possible way, and this is really niche, is that if this targeting an artifact or enchantment triggers something, and then with the trigger on the stack, you can play spells and abilities that would target the Crozen Grip. But I mean, you would have to play into that yourself. That you're a fool if you would do that. This is Neo. I think this card, I think the split second cards are definitely Neo. Next up, it's funny, everyone's mentioning, Counterbalance beats it. No, does it? Does Counterbalance beat this card? Split second can be countered by countering triggers already set up. Morph so Morph counter spell can target split second. Really? I think, well, I'm honestly, if those are the very few things that can counter this, I'm gonna count it anyway. So you can counter a Crozen Grip with the Morph card that counters a spell when turned face up, because it's a special ability that can be played face time, because turning a Morph creature doesn't use the stack. That I don't doubt it. I'm still going to put this in the category of, like, the most Neo of things. Because if, like, I mean, it's pretty close. We could have, like, maybe another tier of, like, God. And maybe Neo doesn't beat God. So, anyway, I'm still putting in the Neo category. Void Mage Apprentice can counter this. Really? Hold on, Void Mage. That's the Morph card. Yeah, that's the Morph creature. When Void Mage Apprentice is turned face up, counter target spell. Funny stuff. Okay, Toilet Dock, Chroma Angel Fury. Ha! I know what this card does. Oh, I don't. Actually, I was thinking of the White Angel. All right, 8 mana, 6/6, can't be countered. Flying, trample, protection from white and from blue. And also for red, a Chroma Angel of Fury gets +1/+0 until end of turn, and Morph for 6 mana. So not only can this thing get countered, it's also, like, outrageously expensive. But as Morph, you can cast this card face down as a 2/2 creature, which also can be countered. So it's actually, so the times that you try to play this as a Morph, it's actually complete shields down, more counterable than your average uncounterable creature. So not only does it get hit by all the Vensers, the bounces, the reprieves, it also can, half the time that you're playing it as a Morph, it gets countered. So I would put this in the easy category. Too easy. Maybe there shouldn't be a too easy. Too easy is just like a regular card that gets countered. Beanpot with Abrupt Decay. This is going to be a tough one. So this 2 mana instant. that can't be countered, and destroy target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less. So first off, you cannot misdirect or divert this card. Not easily, unless you can re-divert it to something else. But there may not even be another permanent on the battlefield with converted mana cost 3 or less, and maybe it's still one of your permanents at the same time. It is true that it can't be countered, but it can still be reprieved and bounced all the same. But it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It was actually very strong for the entirety of its existence. I don't know what happened to this card. I'm not sure what happened to the card. Anyway, we're gonna put in the hard category. Very hard to misdirect this somewhere else. So most of the time you're paying 2 mana, you're gonna destroy something that costs 3 or less. Next up, we've got John, the Word of Seizing. Uncounterable in a different way. Word of... That's what I'm talking about. Okay, we have a 5 mana split second instant, untap target permanent, and it gains gain control of it until end of turn. It gains haste until end of turn. We have another split second card, and for that split second card, I absolutely think this is Neo territory. Not to mention it's instant speed. So because it's instant speed, well, I think the fact that it's instant speed makes it harder for that prodigy creature to counter it, because we can choke our opponent's mana. So I'll definitely put in the Neo category. Very Neo-like. Why did they get rid of can't be countered by spells or abilities for Abrupt Decay? Isn't it still there? This spell can't be countered. Oh, I think it's just redundant. Like, countering it with an ability, countering it with a spell is the same thing. So it's like, you don't have to be so specific. You know, look, they're short forming this stuff so you can fit more words on the cards. It's all about fitting more words on the cards. Counterbalance is not hitting this unless there's a force of will on top. But there can actually. It is possible. Okay, Algot with Emrakul the Ion's Torn. Emrakul the Ion's Torn. She is uncounterable and has cast trigger. The cast trigger is actually really important here. So even if you return to a hand from the stack, she still does things. That's correct. So for 15 mana, the 15/15 can't be countered, but when you cast the spell, you take an extra turn after this one. That actually counters the reprieve. That actually basically counters Venser. Because you can bounce her back to hand, but you get another turn, and I mean, assuming you cast it before, you're going to cast it again. And then you're eventually going to take an extra turn with this. Take an extra turn and get to attack with this. Flying protection from spells that are 1 or more colors, Annihilator 6, and when put into the graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles their graveyard into their library. I don't know a whole lot of ways that you can actually deal with this card. Can anyone think of one? I can't think of any here. Maybe just there's a few cards that say exile target spell. So it's like there's very, very, very few. I think very, very few that dodge everything. An Edict, that's not a counter spell, that's removal. And Emrakul gets beat by all sorts of removal. Time Stop to stop it. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. So it's like basically Mind Break, Trap, and Time Stop your best chances. Stifle are the mono blue that exiles the stack. Well, I mean, you can stifle the take an extra turn trigger and then Mind Break, Trap, I guess. Something like that. Well, Tidebinder only hits... Well, I mean, you can Tidebinder the take an extra turn part, but you're not going to Tidebinder the 15/15 that has Annihilator. That's still a problem. I think this is still in a league of its own. We can definitely put this in Neo. Generally speaking, if this gets cast, I mean, you're in a... should I move everything down? Maybe we got to move everything down. I think Emrakul is in this spot where there's a lot of answers, but there's not a lot of answers. Okay, I'm going to put all these things down because I think too easy. Like, if you suggest me, like, Goblin Guide, I'm just going to disqualify it. I think there are actual answers to Emrakul, but there's just not many. Very, very, very few. All split second cards get around Time Stop, by the way. Absolutely. So that's why they're Neo. Okay, so we just created a new tier here. Emrakul is hard. Very hard to counter. Very difficult. Next up, Paces Fan Forever with the Last March of the Ents. 8 mana, can't be countered. Draw cards equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you control, then put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. I think this just goes into the same vein as all the other uncounterable cards. So, uncounterable, but is not going to get around things like, what's it called? Sink into Stupor, Fencer, Reprieve. So it's definitely in the mid territory. But it gets the advantage that you can't redirect this card, so all the best. All the best to last March of the Ents. Next up, we've got Argentina, Leyline of Abundance. Great idea. All right, 4-mana enchantment. If Leyline of Abundance is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. Probably gets around everything. I don't think that anything beats that. Whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional green, and for 6 mana, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So this probably goes... See, the thing is, you're not guaranteed to have this in your hand every single time. So the games where it's not in your opening hand, it's super counterable. It's an incredibly vulnerable card. But of course, at the beginning of the game, it is completely invincible. So something like if you have 4 copies of it in your deck, 50% of the time, invincible. The other 50% of the time, super vulnerable. I'll put this in the hard category. I think this is a very good one to have in the hard category. I've countered many ley lines. Not, it's usually cast out of desperation, but whatever. Matthew Ryder with Vats. What the hell is this? Vats? Is that a card? Ooh, 40k card. 4-mana instant. Split Second! Choose any number of target creatures with equal toughness. Destroy the chosen creatures. Interesting. So it's a split second card. Actually, no, it's just a split second card. What else can... Yep. Split second. Basically, all split second cards are going to go into the Neo category. Because I think they are the most invincible of all cards possible. I don't think a Delighted Halfling counts. Well, no, I mean, it counts, but it's too easy. Delighted Halfling. Because we're not talking about cards that enable uncounterability. We're talking about cards that itself can't be countered. It's just a 1-mana 1/2. Adds a colorless mana. Add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana, only cast a legendary spell. And I'd actually just disqualify it. It's too easy. It's so easy. Like, it's easier to counter than a Grape Shot or an Akroma. So I'm definitely not going to count. I would say, I mean, technically I can count it, but it's why would we even suggest it? That's all. Multiple targets means it can't be redirected. I don't even think it will. I mean, if you're talking about this last card, I mean, it's got split second, right? Even if you try to redirect it, it's not easy. Or you can't do it. I mean, there's like 1 morph creature that redirects. So I guess it plays around that 1 morph creature, effectively. Next up, we've got a super chat from Elixir again. The Leyline of Life Force. Leyline of Life Force, 4-mana enchantment. If Leyline of Life Force is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it in play. Creature spells can't be countered. Think Leyline, as we discussed before, it's gonna be in the super hard territory. I mean, it's either really clunky and easy to counter, or dodges the game, basically. Start that card with start with that card on the battlefield at the beginning of the game. It's brutal. Okay, Yoinker with Gaia's Revenge. The Revenge of Gaia. 7-mana, 8/5. Can't be countered. Haste, and can't be the target of non-green spells or abilities from non-green sources. But the most important part, just can't be countered. But it can be interacted. Venser, Reprieve, Mind Break Trap. So we'll just put in the can't be countered territory. But still pretty easy to interact with if we really try. Because you can still exile this spell. You can still bounce it back to hand, etc., etc. Bryce with Absolute Virtue. Oops. This is an 8-mana 8/8. Also can't be countered. Flying. You have protection from each of your opponents. Oh, when it's on the battlefield. Still, it's a same deal as all the other cards. In fact, I would say it's a little bit weaker because it's 8 mana, so it's not like you're going to get underneath Mind Break Trap. So we'll still say it's pretty easy for an uncounterable card. That's why people who play cards that can't be countered, I mean, you can play them, but no guarantee it's going to do anything for you. How's this for uninteractable? Recurring nightmare. No, this is a good one. Okay, it's a 3-mana enchantment. Sacrifice a creature, return recurring nightmare to its owner's hand. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. But the thing is, you still need to get the recurring nightmare in play. And if it doesn't come in play, then, well, then nothing happens. So, well, I'm going to have to put this in the too easy category. I mean, it's just a 3-mana card that gets countered, right? And even the activated ability can get stifled. So way too easy. Next up, we've got Jackal, Niv, Mizzet, Parun. It is a 6-mana 5/5 Dragon Wizard. The spell can't be countered, and it's got flying. Whenever you draw a card, deals 1 damage to any target. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, you draw a card. Still, it's just an uncountable. It says it can be countered, which means it's easy to be countered. Or it's easy to interact with, we should say. I guess the show is like, how easy can you interact with uncounterable cards? So what is truly uncounterable? That's what the show is about today. Okay, let's open everybody's mind. I like this one by the Big Squig. Does Boseiju, who endures, count? Yes. Boseiju, who endures. It's not a spell, but it's a card. And that is exactly what I was getting at here with this tier list. It doesn't all have to be spells. So we have a legendary land that taps for a green, which, by the way, really hard to counter. You can't counter tapping for green mana, but has the activated ability of channel. Discard it and destroy target artifact or enchantment or non-basic land an opponent controls. That player may search their library for a land card with basic land type, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. The ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. So channel is actually quite easy to interact with, either by through all the trigger abilities. So you can like stifle Tashanda's Tidebinder. Trickbind is also a card, right? Trickbind. I'm just getting the name right. Yeah, Trickbind. So split second counter target activated or triggered ability. Those are all things on Boseiju, and those are all pretty popular. So I would say it's hard though. It's very, very hard. It's very niche, narrow, and also you can't counter the mana adding ability. Next, we have Pacers Fan Forever with Dragon Lord Dramoka. At this point, people are just sharing their favorite uncountable cards, I think. Six mana, 5/7, can't be countered. Flying Lifelink. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. But the card itself, when it's on the stack, very interactable. Can also get hit by Subtlety. Can get hit by Subtlety. Easy. Easy to deal with these things. These big dummies. Big dummy. Next up, let's get with Asdif Leong with Endless Swarm. This is a, was it 8 mana sorcery? Put a 1/1 green snake creature token into play for each card in your hand. Epic. For the rest of the game, you can't play spells. At the beginning of your each of your upkeeps, copy the spell except for its epic ability. I would say this is very easy to counter. Just counter it. It's 8 mana. It actually loses to days, technically. Too easy. Way too easy. Made it too easy on everybody. Bell with Blurred Mongoose. 2 mana, 2/1, can't be counter, also can't be the target of spells or abilities. I think it's in the same vein. You know, it's a sorcery speed creature. No triggered, like if it's like a sorcery speed creature, no triggered abilities. That's it. Then I think it's a bit too easy. It's very, very easy to interact with. I mean, you could say this creature is like a little bit more difficult because it's 2 mana, so it's coming over super fast. But even then, I'm not particularly impressed. Ellis Flowers with Extirpate. This is a black instant. Split second. Choose target card in a graveyard other than a basic land card. Search its owner's graveyard, hand, and library for all cards with the same name as that card and exile. And then the player shuffles their library. 100%. This is the Neo card. Try to get a little bit of the eyeball over there. So far, all split seconds have hit the Neo. Has Neo status. Those are not the only cards, though. Those are not the only cards. Didn't we do Karavek's Torch? It's this one, I believe. David. Chen with Prowling Serpapod. Prowling. I'm ready to just call this tier uncounterable, the uncounterable tier. Prowling Sir. What's it called? I know what this card is. 3 mana for a 4/3, can't be countered. Creature spells you control can't be countered. This is like I think we got to rename this one. We're gonna call it can't be countered. Can't be countered. We have to rename it. Oh no, maybe I can go back here. There we go. That all fits. Because I mean that's what all of these cards have in common at this point. There's nothing special about them. It's just sorcery speed, uncountable creatures. But it's too easy to counter. Very, very low on the tier list. Okay, next up, we've got John with Gemstone Caverns. Has to... Ooh. Gemstone Caverns. Legendary land. If Gemstone Caverns is in your opening hand and you're not the starting player, you may begin the game with Gemstone Caverns on the battlefield with a luck counter on it. If you do, exile a card from your hand. Tapped out a colorless, and if it has a luck counter, you add 1 mana of any color. Absolutely, this is Neo tier. You cannot interact with this ability that happens at the beginning of the game. You also can't interact with someone adding mana. You can't stifle that. You can't redirect that. I think there's basically nothing. I mean, the only thing, some of the best things that you can do to lands, which is just taxing them and punishing them in the future, is like something like Back to Basics, but you're still going to get the mana out of the card. You can't stop it from activating at least once. So yeah, Gemstone Caverns, 100% is Neo material. Definitely Neo material. Okay, next up, we've got... But what if you are the starting player? It's still land. It's still, you can't counter this card. You can't counter land drops. You can't counter tapping lands for mana. So this actually is Neo, this is Neo level. I mean, it probably dodges everything. Like, I don't know what this doesn't dodge, actually, in my opinion. But we can get, okay, so like we have like Magnum Opus Gold now with Cavern of Souls. I don't know how many lands we'll put on this tier list before we're going to call it a day. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. You can tap to add it for colorless, or you can tap to add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type. The spell can't be countered. We don't care about the spell itself. I need like is there a recognizable Cavern of Souls? Ew! I don't like that. I like this. I can't say I like any of the arts to Cavern of Souls, but this is the art's most iconic to me. So Cavern of Souls itself cannot be interacted with. Not immediately, anyhow. Land destruction or bounce. You can't be, but even if you bounce it, they can add mana in response. And especially when it comes to Gemstone Caverns, I mean, you'll have zero opportunity to bounce this if it enters the battlefield before the game even starts the show. Okay, we're gonna look at how uninteractive uncountable cards are, but we have to thank our sponsor today, FusionGamingOnline.com. My favorite place to buy my Magic the Gathering cards as your Fraternities is out. Is Marvel Spider-Man out yet? I can't tell. I don't go to pre-releases very often anymore. But if you don't have Marvel Spider-Man cards, go get them at FusionGamingOnline.com. And don't forget, every single week there's also a deal of the week. And this week it's 15% off all Secret Lair singles and box sets. And you can get even a bigger deal using coupon code Nikachu at checkout to get 5% off all your purchases at checkout. We're also going to thank Mana Traders, the premier place to rent Magic cards on Magic Online. My favorite place to play Magic the Gathering online. Because when you're renting cards digitally, it's cheaper if you play a lot of decks and you want to play many different formats all at the same time. You just rent a deck, send it back, rent a new deck for another format. You can support the channel using my Mana Traders link in the description below, or save 40% cash back on your 3rd-month subscription using coupon code Nikachu_ZH4. All right, back to this chaos. I think we've unlocked something now. I think I've started something with this Cavern of Souls. There's a point where I'll stop accepting lands unless they have a special ability. Does time stop technically beat lands? No, actually, because if I have the priority to play a land and tap it for mana and play a spell, you have not stopped me from utilizing my land. You can stop the spell I cast, but not the land itself. Nikachu, did you look at Teferi Time Raveler yet? Teferi Time Raveler. No, because I don't need to. I mean, this gets countered by everything. It's just a 3-mana spell. When it's on the battlefield, it can protect other cards, but it doesn't protect its... Teferi doesn't protect himself. So very, very, very easy to interact with this card on multiple fronts. I mean, it gets beat by everything. Doesn't even have... There's, like, no protection on him at all. Next up... Okay, who has no card yet? Bolt the Amolga with Derevi. Imperial Tactician might join in on Neo. Maybe? 3 mana for a 2/3 flyer, enters the battlefield, whenever Derevi, Imperial Tactician, enters the battlefield or a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may tap or untap target permanent. Now, for 4 mana, put Derevi onto the battlefield from the command zone. Now, that's pretty strong, but that's still an activated ability that can be interacted with by Trickbind, Stifle, Tishana's Tidebinder, and many others. So it is a very good ability, but it can be interacted with. So for that, we are going to put that in the hard. It is hard. Very, very difficult to beat this Derevi, but not quite Neo. Okay, next up, we've got Hinaria, the Ur-Dragon. Isn't that just the first ability? Oh, yes, Eminence is very, 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 very strong. I hate this card. Okay, so we have for 10, what is it, 9 mana, a 10/10. As long as the Ur-Dragon is in the command zone or on the battlefield, other dragon spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Flying, whenever one or more dragons you control attack, draw that many cards, then you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. It is impossible to interact with this card. It's just impossible. So it's basically, you start with... This is the wrong sound effect, but that's fine. Basically, you start off with a medallion on the battlefield for the dragons, and for that is definitely Neo status. I would definitely consider that a Neo card. Where all the red spells? Well, they're mostly counterable. If you think about it, they're mostly counterable. Pacers fan forever with the sudden spoiling. What the hell is sudden spoiling? Does it split second? Is it a sudden card? It is. A 3 mana split second. Until end of turn, creatures target player controls loses all ability and have base power and toughness 0/2. Well, by default, because it's split second, it does go to the Neo status. Basically, anyone who wants the Neo status, they just name a split second card. Basically. Marcio. We did Grape Shot. It's down here. Way too easy. You think about it. Think about Marcio. You think of Flusterstorm. You think of Mind Break Trap. You think of technically countering every single Storm card. There's a lot of ways of countering it. So my tier list is moving here. Who has no card? Epic Nate. Dovin's Veto. Dovin's Veto actually has 2 problems. First, it can be exiled, bounced, reprieved, sink it to stupid. But it also can be diverted. So if you want to misdirect, say, you can use misdirection or divert to redirect Dovin's Veto to that card, because they are non-creature spells. It's funny, almost every misdirection card should misdirect Dovin's Veto. So for that reason, it's just mostly in the can't be countered category. It's close. It's somewhere because it can be diverted, it actually should be lower. But I'll put in the can't be countered territory. Banefire. This is just a regular card. Red X. Deal any X damage to any target. If X is 5 or more, the spell can't be countered and the damage can't be prevented. But it still can be bounced, sink into stupid, and so on. So and it's super expensive if you want to get it to 5. So it puts in the can't be countered category. Can be exiled. The One Ring, you just counter the damn thing. It's just a 4-mana clunker. Christopher B. I don't think Christopher B got a card yet today. Loxodon Smiter. Come on, that can't be. That has to be too easy. How about? Let's look at this Bramble Armor Brawler. Oh, it's an arena card. So it's probably strong. 4 mana, 5/5, can't be countered, trampler. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, creature cards in your library perpetually get +1/+1. Oh, whenever an opponent casts a non-creature. But it has to be in play for that ability to happen. And for that, I have to just say it's just a regular can't be countered card. Go beside Banefire for the most part. David Howard says, we did not do Carevex Torch. I went back and checked. This is Crozen Grip. Okay, let's go look at Carevex Torch. So all credit to whoever mentioned in the first place. We have a red and an X. As long as Carevex Torch is on the stack, spells that target it cost 2 more to cast. That is unique. Carevex Torch deals X damage to target creature or player. But it's actually completely counterable. It's 100% counterable. I mean, unless you're casting it for a red and 1, like on turn 2 on the play, I don't think you're gonna get a lot of mileage out of this card. I would actually go as far to say it's too easy. If it was, I don't know why they'd want to stack them, but if it said it can't be countered and any spells that target it cost 2 more to cast, then we'd be talking here. You know, if anything, so far in this show, it just shows how crappy uncountable cards are, because they're actually easy to interact with. They're not nearly as uncountable as they seem, or as they look. Not a real card though. It's a Mirage card. This is real, unless you're talking about that arena card. Okay, Kano with Inala, Archmage Ritualist. It's got Eminence. It's basically all I have to see. Okay, but how easy is it to interact with? It is for 5 mana, 4/5. Whenever another non-token wizard enters the battlefield under your control, if Inala is in your command zone or on the battlefield, you may pay 1. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that wizard. The token gains haste, exile at the beginning of the next end step. It's actually so you can hit this one with the stifles. You can hit this card with the stifle effects. Also, cards that would say if a creature enters the battlefield, like cards, how do I put it? Like creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. Stuff like that also interacts with this card. So I would say it's very hard though. I hate Eminence, and you need to have those stifles every single turn, but you can interact with that one ability. Next up, Marcio with... Did you get a card? No, you got a card! Okay, well, let's do Yuriko anyway. Yuriko. A 3-mana 1/3 human ninja, Commander Ninjutsu for 2 mana. Whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library and put that card onto into your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to that card's mana value. So basically, you can counter the Commander Ninjutsu with Stifle. That's about it. So that's but it does make it hard. There's a very narrow range of cards that can interact with it. So it is definitely in the hard category. It's basically Stifle or bust. There are other, I mean, I'm not going to count the effort that you have to use to attack and get an unblockable creatures, because we're only going to account for the times that this thing has, you actually use ninjutsu on this thing. Next up, let's take, oh, I'm gonna count that as your super chat. So we got your super chat there, Marcio. Next up, Evan, Pearl Lake Ancient. 7 mana for a 7/6 Leviathan with Flash. It can't be countered. It's got Prowess. Return 3 lands you control to its owner's hand. Return Pearl Lake Ancient to its owner's hand. You're probably going to get... It's probably going to... Oh, it does have Flash, which actually makes this a little bit harder. Okay, so I will give this a little bit more of a buff than the other uncounterable cards, because playing it at Flash speed makes it harder for players with, say, play with Venser, play with Sink It to Stupor, Reprieve, because you can cast this card when your opponent has their shields down, whereas when you're playing at sorcery speed, it's so much harder to play around all those cards because you're just forced to cast it or not. So I'll actually put this in the mid category. So this is like uncounterable, but because of the Flash speed, gives a little bit more playability around all those cards that we've been talking about all day. Even though it's very expensive. It's a very expensive card, but I still think it's harder to interact with this card with cards like Reprieve than a sorcery speed card. Next up, Pedgeman, Sandman, Shifting Scoundrel. It's got to be a Spider-Man card. It's that or Arabian Nights. Okay, Sandman, Shifting Scoundrel. But I mean, there's like a lot of sand in the desert, you know, like this with the stones. I don't know if it came from that set, Arabian Nights. There was like a land that animates into a creature. Walking Stones, something like that. Anyway, okay, 3 mana for a star sand elemental villain. Sandman's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. Sandman can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. And for 5 mana, return this card and target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Oh! So this can come back from the graveyard. Return this card and target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So, I mean, we can be well, the idea is that when he does get countered, it's going to be in the graveyard. And then you have to deal with the activated ability. And you can do this you can also do this at instant speed. That's very fascinating. Well, I mean, it's no matter what, you can interact with this with Stifle. Also, it's more vulnerable to graveyard hate. I'm gonna put this in mid, between the graveyard hate and like the graveyard is a very vulnerable place in Magic the Gathering. So I'm gonna say between graveyard hate and Stifle, it's difficult to interact with it, but it's not completely uncounterable. Hold on. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of... Oh yeah, okay. It's counterable, but we're gonna judge it based on its activated ability. Jonathan says, don't forget to at least consider hitting the like button. Oh yeah, I'm vigilant. I do this all the time. More vigilant than the U.S. Postal Service. William, Kaito, Bane of Nightmares. Basically, it's a ninjutsu card. 4 mana, 4 loyalty, ninjutsu of 3 mana, 3 wonderful abilities. And during your turn, as long as Kaito has 1 or more loyalties on him, he's a 3/4 creature and has hexproof. And for that, the only way you can really deal with a Kaito is with Stifle abilities. So we're going to say it's pretty hard. Stifle or nothing. Oh, Stalking Stones was Tempest block? Okay. I was just referring to, like, maybe a creature land at the time. Okay, what's with this Serum Powder? I think I've seen a few people mention Serum Powder. Who else has mentioned Serum Powder? We have John with Serum Powder. What's that? Why is this so popular? Oh, because you use that at the beginning of the game. Serum Powder. I forgot. I forgot what this card was. 3-mana artifact, tap to add a colorless to your mana pool, and then anytime you could mulligan, and Serum Powder is in your opening hand, you may exile all the cards from your hand, then draw that many cards. That is impossible to deal with. But the problem is that you are not guaranteed that ability every single time you draw this card in the game, because you don't always draw it in your opening hand. So basically, 50% of the time you'll have it in your hand to get a new mulligan, and 50% of the time, which is great, don't get me wrong, it's great ability. The other 50% of the time, you have this really crappy 3-mana rock that does nothing from there on. But I'll put in the hard. Yeah, you just can't interact with that ability before the game starts. Next up, Kaito would win a Sinead O'Connor lookalike contest. I have no idea who the hell that is. Jake! Wilson Refined Grizzly. Does it make all the bears uncounterable? 2-mana 2/2, can't be countered. Vigilance, Reach, Trample, Ward 2, and choose a background. You can have a background as a second commander. Interesting. You can have a but that's counterable too. Wilson! Can't be countered category, which means it easily can be countered. 60 Chancellor of the Dross. Assuming you have 60 of them in your deck. The 6/6. You can reveal the card from your opening hand. If you do, at the beginning of the first upkeep, each opponent loses 3 life, and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. Flying and lifelink. Okay, if you have 60... Well, I mean, there is one way to counter it, and that is have your own Chancellor of the Draw stack and just be on the draw. And that will work out perfectly well. I'm going to put this in the hard mode. So basically, this is a before the game starts ability. But the other half is super counterable. Next, I gotta keep an eye on. I see a Pacers. I see it. We're gonna look at. So when we get to the end of the show, we'll look at these cards, and people will get an extra card for each super chat that you have. So you gotta thank Pacers Fan Forever for extending the show. Nice stream, John. Always love the ones that aren't AI generated or custom-made cards. Well, that's like 4 out of 5 times of the week. Okay, Shinobin. Sphinx of the Final Word. 7-mana uncounterable flying hexproof creature. Instant and sorcery spells you control can't be countered. But the card itself can be interacted with. Sink. Venser. Reprieve. Mind Break Trap. A lot of ways to deal with this card. Anyway, it can't be countered, but it can be countered. It will be dealt with. Next up, who has no card yet? Voltland, another card. Tyrannix Rex? What the hell? Okay, it's called Tyrannix Rex. 7-mana 8/8, can't be countered. Trample, Ward 4, Haste, and Toxic 4. That's it. Same as all the other the supposedly uncounterable cards. Very counterable. Chow's like, dang it, Nikachu, why do I always miss the streams? Because you gotta set an alarm for 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. I've been doing this time for like over a year. It's like a year and a half. Leyline of the Void, or any Leyline. Yeah, we've done a few Leylines. Leyline of the Void. So great in your opening hand. Oh, that's a neat art. 4 mana. If it's on your opening hand, just begin with it on the battlefield. And if a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. But problem is, half the time, it's very counterable. Because you don't always have in your opening hand. So it's just hard. It's really hard to interact with this card. Okay, we have Chisar with Darksteel Colossus? I don't get it. Why? Trample Indestructible. If it put in your graveyard from anywhere, reveal it. This is terrible. It can be countered with Force Spike. Yeah, it can be countered with Force Spike. Very easy. There's nothing special about this card at all. Unfortunately for it. It's funny that people still ask when the streams are happening when it's always the same times on the weekdays. And I also say so at the end of every show, but I guess people don't make it past the sponsor segment sometimes. Who else doesn't have a card yet? So there's a lot of people who have no 2 cards yet. Maybe everyone's got a card so far. Let's go with the Big Squig, Squee the Immortal. I think he's very counterable. You know, there's some cards that aren't getting mentioned that I thought would get mentioned. 3 mana for a 2/1 Goblin. You may cast Squee the Immortal from your graveyard or from exile, but no matter where you cast it from, it's still being cast and it still can be countered by literally anything. So way too easy to counter. Super easy. Okay, we're at no 2 cards yet now, people. Bell with Grief. Grief actually is super counterable. I mean, okay. Maybe I'll cut it a little bit of slack because it can be cast on the first turn of the game. The 4 mana 3/2 Menace enters the battlefield. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. Evoke, exile black card from your hand. You know what? Okay, I'm going to give you a little slack. This is actually one of the most uncounterable cards that can be countered. Just because, like, it's almost like a ley line, in that it can be cast on the first turn of the game on the play, and your opponent cannot interact with it. And that was the biggest problem with Grief and all the formats that it got banned in. But it still can be countered, technically. It can be answered with Subtlety. It can still be countered with, like, Force of Will for an equal 2 for 2. It can the ETB is a trigger that can be countered with Stifle. So I would say it's still a pretty counterable, interactable effect. So I'm going to put in the can't be countered category. So it's more uncounterable than usual. Or maybe it is worth being mid. Because it's like, most of the time it can't be countered, plus it's just super hard to interact with because it's the first turn of the game. So maybe it deserves the mid category. Yeah, I think that feels right. It's like, it doesn't say it can't be countered, but practically speaking, I didn't counter a whole lot of Griefs, and I'm a blue player. I've been playing against Grief. I played against Grief for a solid 2 years, and I almost never countered this card. Grief can't be countered because it's not legal. Well, it's legal in Vintage. It's got some play. It has some homes left. We did Dovin's Veto. Right there. Can easily be, well, it can't be countered. How is Grief more uncounterable than spells that literally say so? Because the spells, so like all these spells can be interacted with Reprieve, Sink into Stupor, Venser, Mindbreak Trap, but actually Grief gets underneath all of those, if you think about it. And it also gets and when on the play gets around the Stifle effects, including Stifle itself. And most of the Stifle effects are pretty clunky anyway. So yeah, that's what I was about to put in the can't be countered place, but like it's actually harder to interact with than all those. Super hard to interact with. Let's get Jake with Commence the Endgame. Let the endgame commence. We blasted through the middle game. So this is a 6 mana instant, can't be countered. Draw 2 cards, then amass X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. I would say that's super easy to interact with. So this is just another can't be countered card. Can go in with the pile over here. If you give me a can't be countered card that does nothing else special, then that's about it. Cameron Cole, Bloodbraid Elf. Great suggestion. So you can counter the Bloodbraid Elf, but good luck countering the Cascade part of it. So there's a 4 mana 3/2 haste with Cascade. And for the most part, people can't beat both halves of this card. So some piece of value is going to get across, which is why Cascade decks have been a pretty prominent part of competitive Magic for a very long time. It's hard to get, like, you can counter the Cascade, but you can't counter the 3/2. You can counter the 3/2, but you can't counter the Cascade. I would actually put this... I put this in hard. There's like no way. I wouldn't say there's no way. like usually you're only dealing with one half or not the other. So something's getting through. Who doesn't have 2 cards yet? Okay, I'm just gonna pick you up at random because everyone has no 2 cards yet. And hold on, let's do the old. What do I click on? Turiat, Narcomoeba. Moeba. 2-mana 1/1 flyer. When it's put into your when Narcomoeba is put into your graveyard from your library, you may put it onto the battlefield. Not only is this card, okay, well, I don't want to use Graveyard Hate as too much of a weight on this card because we're really talking about how well do the instants and spells that act like counter spells interact with this card. So it does completely dodge it on the times that it's coming back from the graveyard. But I have, well, Narcomoeba gets cast like on a pretty regular basis because you do draw the card. But the funny thing is, you don't ever want to waste a counter spell on Narcomoeba. Like, never. If my opponent plays Narcomoeba at any point of the game, I'm like never countering this thing unless I'm at 3 life. So in that sense, it is uncounterable. I'll put this in mid. Like, technically it's counterable, but like usually you're just not doing that. As a weird card. Next up, Axonart. You didn't get a card yet, Axonart. Sirach, Elusive Hunter. 3-mana 4/3 can't be countered. Trampler. Whenever a creature you control or a creature spell you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, draw a card. We all know where this is going. We all know. We knew before it even started. Next up, Bulky's joined the show. Welcome, Bulky. Nezahal, Primal Tide. 7 mana, 7/7 can't be countered spell. You have no maximum hand size. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, draw a card. Discard 3 cards. Exile Nezahal, Primal Tide. Return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Problem is, none of that stuff below matters. Because it can still be interacted with Sink into Stupor, Venser, Reprieve, Mindbreak Trap. Goes to... And also the ability, even if it was on the battlefield, can be interacted with Stifle. So it can... Still a lot of room to beat it. I see Pravi. Creeping Chill. That card is so frustrating. Now here's the deal with Creeping Chill. I mean, you might see one, but you might see multiples. It's a 4-mana sorcery. It deals 3 damage to each opponent, and you gain 3 life. So you can't redirect this card. When Creeping Chill is put into your graveyard from the library, you may exile it. If you do, Creeping Chill deals 3 damage to each opponent, and you gain 3 life. It even dodges certain... No, it doesn't dodge Graveyard Hate like Surgical. But what I will say is it's in a very similar vein as like Narcomoeba in that if you can get it, if it does get milled from the graveyard, very hard to interact with this card outside of Stifles, but it can be countered and it can still be stifled. So it's somewhere in between where like can't be countered, but you can still interact with it like a pretty good chunk. Next up, Hedgeman. I think you once encountered the Demigod of Revenge. I have. This is a 5 red or 5 black, 5/4 spirit avatar, flying in haste. When you cast Demigod of Revenge, return all cards named Demigod of Revenge from your graveyard to the battlefield. How do I beat this card? I think this is a pretty hard card. You either cast this or you counter the triggered ability, but you're probably not going to do both. It's a very frustrating card. I once played against a deck that played Intuition for this thing. It was like, I think it was a blue-black deck, and the Intuition for Demigod of Revenge, then cast one of them, and then of course brought the rest of them back. So this is like This is sort of like Bloodbraid Elf. You either interact with the graveyard recursion or you interact with the creature itself, but you're not going to interact with both. Okay, well now it's time to get back to the super chats. We're gonna let's look at Steve Cooper's. Use Whirlwind Denial for Cascade and Storm. Whirlwind Denial. What are you talking about? You just want this to be a dono. 3 mana instant for each spell and ability your opponents control. Counter unless its controller pays for it. Yeah, that's another Flusterstorm for the Storm cards. Okay, this was a dono. So who are we going to dono to? All right, I'm going to close my eyes. Let's do the old spin the wheel thing. Where does my mouse land? Nobody knows. That's not a card. Oh boy. Throes of Chaos. 4-mana sorcery, Cascade, and Retrace. When you cast the spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that costs less. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Put the exiled cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. I actually think that this is actually really interactable. This is worse. I would say this is worse than an uncounterable card, and I'll tell you why. Because you can let the Throes of Chaos resolve, and you just counter the card that it finds, right? And I understand it has Retrace, but then it's still like the cards that you find are counterable, and it can be interacted with Stifle. So it's sort of in the same power level as Storm. So I'll say it's actually way too easy. Way too easy to interact with this card. I built a janky fun deck around that Rakdos Demigod. That Rakdos Demigod is underrated. Yeah, the card does nothing. You just counter the card that it cheats into. Let's get Beanpots with Arclight Phoenix. Arclight Phoenix. It's not a bad suggestion. 4 mana, 3/2, flying haste at the beginning of combat on your turn. If you cast 3 or more instant or sorcery spells this turn, return Arclight Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is important because, like, even if you counter the spells that you're casting on this turn, it doesn't matter. It just wonders, did you cast 3 spells this turn? If so, we're gonna bring it back from the graveyard. So the only thing that really interacts with this card are Stifle effects. That's it. Stifle or bust. It is Stifle or bust. And it's actually a feel bad card when you counter this card, because you know it's coming back next turn. So this is a pretty hard card to beat. It's a pretty hard card to deal with. Next up, we have Pan Ninja, the Inevitable Defeat. Let's go look at the Inevitable Defeat. 4 mana, instant. Spell can't be countered. Exile target non-land permanent. Its control loses 3 life, and you gain 3 life. Oh, it's got a little lightning helix sort of effect. It's actually lightning helix and doom. No, it's not Doomblade. What part of this Mardu card is uncounterable? I guess the red part. Very easy to interact with, though. Spell can't exile target non-land permanent. Its controller. So you have 2 problems here. Not only can this card get interacted with by Reprieve, Sink into Stupor, Venser, Mindbreak Trap, it also can be redirected. Redirected with Misdirection, Divert. I think there's a red Misdirection effect out there. So I'm going to put this in the too easy category. There's a lot of ways of answering this card. Maybe one too many ways. Next, let's take a look at... We have some no card yet players here. Chow, Slimes Against Humanity. Is that a real card? Slime Against Humanity? 3 mana sorcery. Create a 0/0 green ooze creature token with trample. Put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is 2 plus the total number of cards you own in exile and in your graveyard that are oozes or are named Slime Against Humanity. A deck can have any number of cards named Slime Against Humanity, but that doesn't change anything, right? It needs to resolve. And if it doesn't resolve, you get nothing. You get nothing, nada, zip, squadoosh. It's way too easy to interact with. If it had a cast trigger, that could be different. Next we got a super chat from Paces Fan Forever. In Too Deep. Blue Aura, split second. That's important. Enchant creature or planeswalker or clue. Enchanted permanent is a colorless clue artifact with pay 2. Sack this artifact, draw a card, and lose all other abilities. Weird. Well, but it's got split second. That's the Neo effect. Neo just had to be faster than all the other agents to beat them. That was the key. Mean Brutally. Did we do Hull? I don't think we did Hullbreaker Horror. Hullbreaker Horror. 7 mana can't be countered flash creature. All right, it's got flash. That's very important. When you cast a spell, choose up to 1. Return target spell you don't control to its owner's hand. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So unlike all the other uncounterable cards, this one has flash, which can actually play around Venser, play around Reprieve, play around Mindbreak Trap. Because when your opponent is more tapped out, that means it's time to play the Hullbreaker Horror. Or if they tap down low enough, you can play around those cards. So this is more of a mid-level card. Has Strict Bind been done? Technically no, but it's counterable. You can counter that card. Oh, no. Hold on. No, you can't counter that card. Hold on, this is a trick. Is that split second? Oh, it's the split second card! We talk about this card, but no one really suggested it. Okay, it's got split second. Also deserves to be in the Neo category. We've been talking about it all day, but for the wrong reasons. Marcio with the super chat. Shadowborn Apostle. I have no idea how this is matter. You can't counter them all? Well, yes, I can. If I have an infinite graveyard or an there's all sorts of ways of doing it. Have you heard of Chalice on 1? Checkmate. It's just a 1 mana 1/1. You can have as many Shadowborn Apostles as you want. Who would win? 1,000 Shadowborn Apostles or a singular Chalice of the Void on 1? You got one? You want to be part of the show? Oh, you are. You were part of the show. Magic Nation, sudden spoilings. I mean, you can counter it, but there comes a second. I guess only Chalice of the Void counters it. No, I can counter with an infinite number of counter spells. Oh, we did this one. Sorry about that. Felicia coming in very late. Fury Storm. 4 mana instant. When you cast the spell, copy it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. You may choose new targets for the copy. You may copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Technically, you can counter all of them. You could Flusterstorm them. Yeah, I mean, it's just basically a storm card. You can, if you have 5 counter spells, you can counter all those all of them at once. Too easy. Little too easy. Next up, Pacers fan forever with whoops, didn't mean to do that. Anala, Archmage Ritualist. Is this what's it called? An Eminence card? Oh, did this get? Oh, this one got sniped. Sorry about that. We did Anala. I don't know how long ago we did Anala, but we did it. Okay, we're gonna donate this one. We're going to donate to someone who didn't get a card yet. SD Shogun with Toski. You get the super chat. 4 mana, 1/1. Can't be countered. Indestructible. Attacks each combat if able, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you get to draw a card. But it's just a humble can't be countered card, which means it can be countered by a lot of other effects. Goes into the can't be countered pile, like all the other ones. Do we have one more no card yet, people? Anyone else with no card yet? Vac! Showing up out of nowhere. Inventory management. I get the sense people like this show. It's a 2 mana instant, split second. For each Aura equipment you control, you may attach it to a creature you control. I think this card is useless, but I will not deny that it is. It's a Neo card. It's basically all split second cards. What is it? Split seconds and Gemstone Caverns and Cavern of Souls. What a weird bunch. We got Chin with Into the Time Vortex. Into the Time Vortex is a 5-mana sorcery with Cascade, and it also has Rebound. So, I mean, as you cast the spell from your hand, exile it as it resolves, and at the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast the card again. But you can just counter the card that you Cascade into both times. Simple as that. Just you're like, it resolves, and then next time it bounces around, you counter that one too. It's a sorcery after all. So I would say it's way too easy to counter. Way too easy to interact with. Is there a buyback counterspell? Forbid. Forbid is a buyback counterspell. Does Tabernacle count? Yes, it does, but you've got 2 cards already. Vornificus with Knuckles is a very unusual. Which one? This one? Double Strike, Trample. Everyone or creature. No, let's not do this one. It's too easy. Way too easy. Lesthian. Emissary Ploy. Oh, sorry. Emissary's Ploy. Oh! It's a conspiracy. Before drawing your opening hand, choose 1, 2, or 3. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast creature spells with converted mana cost equal to the chosen number. Definitely a Neo card. There we go. I'm surprised we didn't reach for these cards earlier. There's all sorts of like unique cards. Okay, I want to end the show on a very simple card. Island. You cannot. Can we get a regular looking island here? Okay, this looks regular enough. There we go, Spider-Man Island. You can't counter it. You can't interact with its ability to add mana. And for that reason, this card is a Neo card. I'm surprised no one suggested the basic land. The humble basic land. And that is it. I'm sure there's like more cards that could go into the Neo category. I think it was very creative to throw out that conspiracy card very, very last second. Can't be countered because it's not legal. What are you talking about? Talking about some banned cards? I hope it was a fun stream. It was a little different. We could do other streams like this. How well cards interact with other cards and so on. So as usual, my coffee crew, as usual, we do these shows 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. You want to be part of the show? Be there. 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thanks everyone who does show up though, and everyone who supports the show with money. People who are members on YouTube, patrons on Patreon, or use Super Chat to be part of the show, or even Super Chat so other people are part of the show. And of course, thanks so much to everyone who is here today. People like Steve Cooper. We got Pan Ninja, Bell, Kano, Old Boy, Ellis Flowers, the Big Squig. We got Pedgeman, Steve Cooper, Cameron, Cole, and many more. So as usual, my coffee crew, keep brewing those coffees. And we'll keep brewing up the magic. Take care of yourselves. And I will see you at the next cup.